Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, with a fun, crafty, artsy technique for you today. We're going to do a little painting with oil pastels. Ahead of your request, a painting tutorial with oil pastels, and I wanted to show you my favorite, which are the Portfolio brand by Crayola. They're $8 a package of 24 or $4 a package of 12. I think that's what you get in the package of 12. And then in the package of 24, you get these lovely earth colors in addition. This is a new package that I bought, I think at Blick or Amazon for $8. But I already have an open package, so I'm going to use those. I just arranged the colors I'm going to use here in this little pepper tray. And I just picked this blossom off of my Christmas cactus this morning, and I figured it would be a really pretty item to paint in our oil pastels. And I'm going to start with a white oil pastel, and I'm using a piece of matboard scrap, but you can use cardstock or whatever colored paper you have. I really recommend doing it on colored paper because oil pastels are rather opaque, so it's really just a nice way to use the qualities of the pastel. So what I'm doing is I am just sketching in the petals, and I'm going to want to color them all in because I know my pink and my my red are not going to be quite as opaque, so I want to make sure that that they're going to show up when I go in there and color them. So I'm just putting in my basic shapes and coloring them in. We can always push our colors out a little bit more later, so it's better to be a little bit skinnier and then fatter with your design, just because you can always push those colors out later. I'm just trying to put some expressive strokes, and oil pastels are good for that because they just glide on the paper. Like I said before, I am using matboard, and it's a smooth matboard, and I've got these little segments of the Christmas cactus here I just want to put in. I have a nice green that I think will do well for that. And I'm going to wait to put the stamen in till later. Get some more color in the middle there. Fill it in good. Alright, I'm also going to use a number 4 flat Aqualon brush. This is my favorite brush for pushing these around. It doesn't have to be Aqualon, any number 4 flat nylon bristle brush. And you just need a little tiny dish of water, and I put it off camera because it was getting a lot of glare from my lights, and a little paper towel there. Alright, I'm going to use this moss green to color in my stems. Not stems, well, I don't know what you call them. They're the succulent part of the Christmas cactus. And this might actually have another name, but it blooms beautifully in the winter for me. I have it on my big picture window upstairs, and it donated a blossom to the cause today. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in here where it kind of connects. And I'm going to add a little bit into the blossom itself. I mean, into the, geez, I can't talk today. I'm going to add that into the, that part of the succulent part of the plant. And I'm adding a little bit of, this is a cerulean. It doesn't look that cerulean to me, but that's the name of the color. And I'm just defining the edges on the bottom of the succulent part of the plant. And while I'm at it, I think I'm going to add a little bit of the cast shadow around here with that. And I'm going to go very light and just around, because I've got some, you'll probably see the way my lights are just adding a little bit of a shadow around it. Whenever you have the chance, you know, if you've got some fresh flowers at home or your garden's in bloom, whenever you get the chance, work from life, because then when you go to work from photos later on, you're going to have absorbed a lot of information as to the texture of petals and how they look and how they cast shadows, and you'll be able to recreate it a lot better when you go to paint from life. When you go to paint from photos, you'll have all the information from when you painted from life. So, you know, anytime you have a chance, you know, maybe your boyfriend buys you some flowers, or your husband, you can use that information. So I'm actually, before I get into the nitty-gritty of the flower, I'm going to use my brush, and I'm just going to liquefy that blue that I used for a shadow. It's a nice lively shadow color, and I didn't want anything that was going to go against that green background that I have. So yeah, so since I'm working on green, I wouldn't, you know, your instincts might say, boy, I should use black for my shadow and water it down. And you know, you can, but I would urge you to try to find a color you've already used, just because you're going to have a much more lively shadow. It's going to look like it belongs with the piece. and your picture is going to look a lot more lively. It's a lot of times shadows made with black just look like dead spots, and it doesn't look natural at all. And we can refine our shadows later. I just want to get that in so I know that I've got those tones in there. Just going to help me place my other values. Value is just how light or dark something is. It'll help me place my values as I go. These are going to dry lighter because the water on my mat board is making it appear darker than it is. So I've got it watered down so it's very transparent right now, because I just want a very transparent shadow there. I don't want my shadow to be opaque and thick like the focal points of what I'm painting. All right, now I'm going to add some pink to my, I'm going to scribble some of that off. I have a little scrap of mat board here. I'm going to scribble some of that off because it looks a little bubblegummy to me, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't have a wax haze on there. And I'm going around and I'm adding some colors to the petals towards the end. They're going to be nice and opaque because of the colors I have on top. And I keep looking at that as I go and not taking for granted what I think the flower looks like. I keep looking back at that because I want to make sure that I have a fairly correct representation. Now there's a couple more petals back there that I haven't put in yet because I'm not quite sure if they're going to add to the design or detract from it. And I'm not trying to do a botanical illustration here. I'm doing a quick, just a quick sketch. So I want it to look, good. I'm not so worried about it being exactly perfectly accurate, obviously. And there's a few more petals in there that I'll have to add some more white to. And now I'm actually going to steal this from this set over here because I didn't bring it over here. This lovely red violet color. Actually, let me pause this and see if I have that in my other kit, because I really don't want to break into this one quite yet. I did have another one of those, so I'm going to put this new one back and use this one right here. It's a really pretty color. I'm just going around and getting that darker color in where it belongs there. Defining some of my petals that have kind of joined together. And as we layer the colors, we start to get a really nice painterly look here. These are honestly such a fun medium, and I bought these originally because a friend of mine was doing a class was teaching a class in watercolor crayons, and I just couldn't justify the price of those beautiful Caran d'Ache crayons. So I thought, well, why don't I see if I like this first and try it with a less expensive item. And also I taught classes too at the time to children, and I thought this would be a really great intro for them, and I wouldn't have to worry so much about the cost of supplies. So I got these. They were at Staples at the time. I don't know if they still carry them at Staples. They do online, but they're more expensive than Blick. But they had them at Staples for like $8 a set back then, and so they were very affordable, and I got those for my students to play with, and I just fell in love with them, and they're such a fun, inexpensive medium to play with. Alright, I'm going to go back in with some of the white and start layering some of the white in there. Now, I really don't feel the need to sharpen my crayons and pencils very much. You can always push it around with the wet paintbrush later, but if this really bothers you having a blunt end, you can use a razor to or like a craft knife or box cutter to sharpen it, and sharpen it into a little dish or a little ice cube tray or something like that, and then you can use it for paint with a brush. Just squirt it with water and use a paintbrush to paint with it, so don't waste any of that fabulous material there. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow in there and in the center here, and I did grab a little yellow ochre because it's a little more opaque, and I just love the color. I'm going to scribble that off of my scrap just to clean it. It's feeling a little chunky and gunky. I think I picked up some of the other color with that. Add a little bit of that in there. And sometimes I'll scribble it off and actually pick it up with my paintbrush if I'm having a hard time getting it where I want it to go. And I can go in and paint it on. Alright, now I'm actually going to blend with my clean, damp paintbrush. And I find that your lighter colors are a little stronger than the dark. So I often start with my dark areas, and then I will work my way over the lights and then kind of blend the lights into the dark areas. So here I'm working, and I'm working on a smooth paper. You may find you enjoy it a little bit better working on a textured paper because, as you can see, the coverage can be a little difficult on the smooth cardstock because it wants to slide around, where a rougher cardstock or pastel paper will grab it a little bit better. But if all you have is smooth cardstock, it's going to behave just like this. So I don't want you to feel that you can't do it because you don't have matboard scraps, or you don't have this brand of paper or that brand of paper. I mean, you could use watercolor paper. Sometimes what I like to do is I will do a watercolor painting and then I'll go over it with this. In fact, if you know, one of the best investments you can make is some good quality watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be the most expensive. In fact, I'll show you this. This is a great, this Fabriano Watercolor Studio 75 sheets for about 20 bucks. At like Dick Blick. That's a great investment because you could paint it with watercolors to get the color of paper you want, and then go over it with the with these pastels. It works really good, and you're not going to be adding enough water and enough friction with your brush to lift like a watercolor underpainting, which is really nice. So you can see, I mean, it's almost like painting with oil paints because you can keep go back and rework it until you have it exactly the way you want. It's just a very fun, forgiving, it's almost like sculpting, how you can move these strokes around with your damp paintbrush. And I think Crayola is a pretty easy brand for most people to find. I know, you know, in the United States we can find everything pretty easily, but any stockist that sells children's art supplies should be able to get this for you if they don't carry it on the shelves already. I don't think there's any sort of shipping regulations with this product. It's non-toxic. I mean, gosh, you could probably use it for face paint. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I bet you could. Now see, I'm sculpting this down a little bit because I know these petals should not, they should be kind of flat across there. That's where it's bending, and I can't see in the middle of that flower. So I am pushing that down, and I think I might even, even though I don't see that shadow there, I think I might add a little of that cerulean just to break that up a little bit. And add a shadow. And I think I like that because it kind of breaks it apart a little bit. Let me just liquefy this, and we can go in and layer some more colors. What are we up to? We're up to 12 minutes and 34 seconds. Keep my eye on the clock because my camera shuts off after 20 minutes, and then I have to slap it all together on my computer if I need to go longer than that. And I have to tell you, it's not a very fun experience because my computer is not the newest and my internet speed is not the fastest, so putting those long videos up is not good times. I'll do it once a week for Ask a Crafter, but other than that, I don't like to mess with the long videos. And I know a lot of you guys don't have the time to watch them anyway because you're busy people. Alright, so now I'm just adding some definition into the bottom part, the succulent part, which I really want to look waxy, so I kind of want to build up a lot of layer here, a lot of layers of waxy pastel. So I'm just kind of overlapping my colors. And it would be easier to get more to stick down on a toothier surface, but I just love this color, so I'm going for it with this color. It's moss mat board. I do picture framing as well, so I honestly usually have a lot of these little pieces left over from the middles of frames that I've cut, and rather than throw it away, I use it for my artwork. It's a very economical way to have some art supplies. Sometimes if you go to a framer shop, you could ask them if they have any of their scraps for sale or for free, and they might give you some little ones that are too small for them to use for anything, but are just ideal for techniques like this. You know, sometimes they're really good about it, and they'll give you your stuff, especially if you're a customer. If you take things in to get framed, you can ask for the scraps from whatever you've had framed, and you've paid for them basically, so why not? And but even if not, they still might let you have some scraps or sell them really cheaply. Back before I knew how to frame, when I was like in high school, I would go to this local stationery store that also offered framing, and they would have these this bin, and it was like all like 50 cents or, you know, maybe up to $1, but most things are like 50 cents, and they just cut tiny mats out of their scraps and they sold them. And oh, what a treasure that was. I remember I would mat up all kinds of stuff for presents when I was younger. I still do, actually. Sometimes people get their starving artist presents. My homemade gifts. My cheapskate gifts. I never think it. I know when I receive a handmade gift, I love it. I never think of it's a cheapskate gift, but whenever I'm giving one, I always think, oh, I feel like a cheapskate because I made it. I shouldn't feel like that, I suppose. All right, so, you know, just layering. Okay, I want to bring some of these petals to the finishing point, and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow in here in the center. Because even if I don't get a chance to finish every little petal, I want to show you how we do it. So I'm giving some of this cerulean blue in here, and I am using that as my shadow color in the center of this back flower. So any petals underneath, any petals coming out of the center, I'm just darkening this area so that I can get my the brighter whites and the brighter pinks to stand out and show up a little bit more. You don't have to blend it too much. You can leave them. You can leave the colors as you know, you can leave the lines in as much as you want, or you can blend them out as much as you want, and it's completely up to you. Sometimes you need to scribble your white off on your scrap paper to get it to clean up. And look at the white now. I'm going over an area it's almost all dry. The color will stick a little bit better on a dry area than a wet area. So I'm going in, I'm adding that white. I really want to get some in there good. You can also scrape it away. If you got too much of a color, you could use like a palette knife or something to scrape it away. Alright, I'm going to go in and sharpen up those petals with my red violet. I had another red I had picked out, but then when I saw it over here under my daylight bulbs, I realized that it was too orangey. So I'm sticking with these red violets here. And if I need to darken the ends of the petals, I can go in with that cerulean again. So you always try to, you know, stick with the colors you started with. Because then your painting will have lovely harmony. Well, I'm skipping around a little bit, but I know I need some of that down there too. And I find that I can spend a lot of time on these pictures because I like that working back and forth and blending. All right, now I want to add the tall pink stamen. I think I'm going to add it first with the white. Add that little drop up there and then just kind of pull it down. Then I'm going to add a little pink to it. I really want to make sure it's opaque. And then I'm going to go in with the red violet. And now I need to add this yellow area, which again, I think I'm going to see if I got a sharp edge here. Yeah, there we go. So I was pretty forceful with that, but then I'm going to leave it be. I'm going to add some of this yellow right on top. And then I'm going to add some of the gold, the yellow ochre. No, golden brown it's called. It looks like a light yellow ochre, but the actual name is golden brown. And I kind of lost this guy in there a little bit and add him back. Got some dust on there. I'm just going to tap it off over there. And let's see, what else do I want to put in here? I think I'm going to scribble some of this off over here. We're getting very close to the end here. Okay, let's see. I'm going to finish this up in the next minute. I'm going to use my scrap paper as a palette. I'm getting up some of this nice violet and some of this blue. Mixing it together, and I'm just going to outline my petals. You do this for any of the petals that need a little extra definition, and if you go to my blog, you'll be able to see the finished picture, which I will finish up off camera because I am running out of time, but really all I am going to do is just outline some of these petals, and I'm going to call it a day. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial for the oil pastels, water-soluble oil pastels. I use the Portfolio brand. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Share it on Pinterest or Google or Facebook or whatever. And as always, happy crafting.